group called We Are Paranormal, if you know maybe what that stands for. We might wear those shirts. And
I cannot wait to get a shirt.
Dance. That might be part of our dance.
Yep. And everybody had to explain to me what everything meant and how you say it. And acronyms. Everyone explained that to me because I'm 80.
I'm almost 80. It's fine.
Yep. Which is fantastic news for everyone who wants to meet us, say hi, come take a selfie with us in my awkward hands. Great Lakes Paranormal up in the town that's next to Sheboygan.
Glenbeulah, I believe. Glenbeulah. Yeah. So we'll be up there just walking around. Come say hi.
Great Lakes Paranormal Conference. It's going to be a good time. Dare I say it? It's going to be a spooky good time.
Air horn, air horn.
Jenny with the jokes.
So, real quick, before we get into our guest, there's some UFO news.
What is it?
Just that they've gathered all this stuff, and all the very credible evidence of UFOs has been around nuclear sites and sites of war. And Hiroshima, and it's something that's been acknowledged, but now they're straight up, this is where the most credible sightings have been, and they have it mapped out, and it's real cool because I went to that site of that acronym that I don't remember.
So the question, is it that they're causing something, that they're charging themselves up? They're
like, what are you guys doing? Stop. That's it.
I think we had I think that was sort of the consensus that we arrived at, I don't know, maybe a few months ago, that they were trying to prevent the further destruction that we've got going on with planet Earth by not letting us explode nuclear weapons. There were a couple of times where sightings were around nuclear testing sites, and something happened with the launch. Of course, I'm not going to have details because why would I remember that?
A lot in Japan.
Well, there's a lot of nuclear things that go on in Japan.
Exactly.
So
and
that's
exactly. God. Okay. Hey, you want to do a quick intro of our guest and we'll bring her on in?
So I'm going to say we are going to have Cyn Shrader Hill on in just a moment. She is an author, a paranormal investigator, and also a podcaster. I met her as a podcaster. I was on Legit Paranormal, where she podcasts from, and got to meet her there. But I am so excited to actually talk to her and not just kind of be on her show. So, welcome, Cyn Shrader Hill.
Oh, yeah, I should get her in here.
Yeah, probably.
Wherever she's going to be.
Something
Not
like
I can point anyway on this thing. It's always in the wrong direction.
God.
Do you ever think that maybe, the aliens are coming through for, historical lessons? Or, hey, these are things not to do to our planet? Or, hey, kids.
It's a field trip?
Yeah, hey, kids, since we're colonizing these planets for you, let's point out what you shouldn't do.
Yeah, you know how we colonize stuff? Stop colonizing how you do it. Do it like we do it and help people, you dum-dums.
Yeah, right?
I think they're showing their kid aliens what not to do.
Yeah,
right?
We're the prison planet. They're if you don't behave, you're going to end up there, in hell.
You guys, we are the folklore of an alien culture.
No!
I can only hope.
There's somewhere...
And then they got together on these podcasts and talked about...
Somewhere there's wood block prints or whatever the alien
yeah, that's what they use.
Equivalent would be of people with terrible horns and just carrying big guns and
they have arms for guns or guns for arms and axes for arms.
That's how the artists do it. Just whoop, 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 whoop,
pew, pew, pew.
Pew, pew, pew.
Okay.
That would be everything coming out of those word bubbles.
It's so loud there.
It's so loud, and it's sold at fine arts fairs and craft fairs by hobbyists.
Always with the guns there. Always with the guns.
It's ridiculous.
And the bombs.
They love destroying.
Their video games are just, cutting down swaths of the Amazon.
More of the same.
Destroying.
It's like what they do in real life. It's gross.
Gross.
All right, and with that, let's introduce Cynthia. Cyn, because All right. Oh, I'm gonna have to.
Well, while we're doing that, while Tress is doing that, you know what? We didn't point out who our picture is by today.
Oh, that's right.
Which one is that?
We should get rid of the picture before we point it out.
So the picture, the aforementioned picture, BizX, Matt Groth again. So I was so excited when Tressa showed this to us today. It's gorgeous. So I don't know if I already saw it before, but I love it. So thank you, Matt. We appreciate it.
And I feel like it's very fitting to our guest as we welcome Cyn Shrader Hill. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Welcome.
We had the opportunity to meet you right before the show, and I believe you were muted. But very excited. Yes, I started looking at the books. First of all, before she speaks, if you haven't heard her speak, it's delightful because she has just that warm, like southernish sort of accent that's just wraps you up and makes you feel good. So because I did watch some interviews, and then I definitely did check out some samples of the books. I know which one I'm downloading, which we'll for sure talk about it. So you've written quite a few books. You are active in, 4 of them. You are active in investigations. I know that you have almost like a focus on EVP, if I'm not mistaken. You have started an investigative group. All of these things. We are so excited. Everybody clap. Everybody clap. Yay! So welcome, Cyn, and I'm going to be quiet and let you say hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on here. I'm so excited. So excited.
So great to have you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
So the books that I kind of started to read, I read like a couple of chapters of each one. There's several. There's They're Speaking, Are You Listening? The next one is Whispers in the Dark, True Ghost Stories, and I believe Eerie Tales.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And then It's Not Goodbye, Signs from Beyond. And then you have a short story fiction book as well, which is based on experiences, which is called Web of Terror, which I'm a huge fan of fiction horror short stories. Absolutely adore them, but I loved the books, and the one that I'm really excited about that I'm going to read first, you start off by saying this is the book that almost wasn't a book, and that's They're Speaking, right?
That's the one. Sure. Yeah, that was supposed to be my first one. I couldn't figure out how to get the concept across because it was about the audio that I had fallen in love with. That's what I love to find, all the audio, any EVPs. And I have found so many interesting ones and some creepy ones and funny ones, and I wanted everybody to be able to hear them. And I wanted to write a book about them and put all that together. So finally, I figured out I would just put it on elkvalleyparanormal.com. And if you go to the evidence section, there's a pull-down menu, and you can click on They're Speaking. And as you go through the book, each chapter is defined, and you can listen to all the EVPs that I have in that book.
Oh, it's so finally, cool. Yeah, I told you guys
it's over 100. It's over 100 of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's very well written because it's written with your personal, point of view. But I love that tie-in. I cannot believe, because I first saw the title and I thought, how did she do this? Obviously. But the tie-in is amazing. I love that concept that you can read about it and hear it.
Thank you so much.
Oh, it's beautiful. And in the intro to that, you talk about kind of what pushed you a little bit more into the paranormal, at least on the investigation side. If you could tell me kind of about your journey into it, that would be awesome.
I actually have not been investigating for very long. I got into it late. I always had the interest, the desire to go to haunted places, and I've been to many. Just haven't gotten to investigate them like I'd like to. Like the Birdcage Theater, I've been in it, but I've not gotten to investigate, like you would like to. Alcatraz, been to it, not investigated. So just tons of places like that. And then the ones that I have investigated, you get to hear about those in the stories. I joined a group after my cousin had them come down to investigate her art studio. She was having an issue. She was hearing things, wasn't exactly sure what was going on. They came down and I didn't know it. And I was so hurt that she didn't say, "Oh, they're going to be here. Come over."
Oh.
And I was like, "Oh man, I want my own group. I want to know how to start one." And she said, "Well, here's their information." So I reached out to them. Now, my dad, we had lost him in 2001 at the end of September. Massive heart attack. He died in his sleep. It was unexpected. I was a daddy's girl, one thing after another. And hard time of year because that's right before the holidays. Nobody's used to it. It was tough. So it took a while. Mom and my sister had worked with him at the store. And the store I'm talking about was an old auto parts store. The building itself, the basement of it, was built in the late 1800s, and it was a turkey slaughterhouse. So there were still vats in the basement, hooks, all that kind of stuff, and it was actually street level. So when my mom and dad had the store, it had been an ice cream plant, it had been a furniture store, it had been a Red Cross office, it had been several things over the years. And then for 30 plus years, it became the auto parts store in town. And so the first level that they had was actually the second level, so after the road had built up. All right, so the basement was always creepy, didn't know what exactly was there, but Susan and Mom tried to keep that store going in a small town. Auto parts, Walmart selling auto parts. There's O'Reilly's, there's Advance, there's the other one that's the A one. I can't think what it is right away. AutoZone. They're all in town. And then all these other mom and pops. So when you're a female in the South, it's not going to be so great. So they kept it open as long as they could. Now, in that time, my nephew was born a year after my dad died. My sister wasn't supposed to have children. She had lost 5. At 16, she was told she'd never have them, never carry them to term. And so she lost 5 and really wanted to be a mom. Wyatt stuck. And he was born a year after my dad died. So he was kind of the one that came in and lightened everybody's world. And he did. He was incredible. So I was actually training him in the last few years to be my videographer. I made him wait until he was 18. He was like, "Aunt Cindy, let me come. You're not old enough yet. I'm not going to take you yet." "Oh, Aunt Cindy, please, let me go. "I can't take you yet. We're not going yet. We'll go to murder mysteries and we'll go to do this stuff, but we're not going to do that." But so he was my mini me. He did the stuff that my husband won't do with me. Investigate, murder mysteries, Olive Garden, this kind of stuff, right? So he was my go-to. He went to book signings with me, and he would go take my business cards around the square. "Hey, you need to come see my aunt. She has got a book over here." He was just so fun. So fun. All right. So back to the store. We got the group to come in 2013. Okay. And they went down into the basement. They got a few things. They took a break and went outside, and a rock got thrown. Now, I was the trigger object there, talking to my dad, trying to get him to see if he was there, whatever. Nothing was going on until they took a break and a rock got thrown. Like, hey, I'm trying to talk to you. Come on, let's get back in here. And they came running back and got set up. The only place their instruments lit up, the K2, any of that, was exactly where his chair had sat for 30 plus years. That's the only place in the whole building. Yeah. And all the utilities had been turned off at least 2 years prior to the investigation. And I think it was more like 3. So nothing on, no water, no electricity, no gas, no nothing. And they got 2 EVPs. One was this really strange holy mackerel, which nobody in my family ever used. I wondered if it was from the ice cream factory or, something back in the 30s or 40s, maybe. I don't know. But the other one was from the basement, and it was clucking. They had hot turkeys.
The turkeys.
Down there.
That's wild.
Yeah, so insane. I bit hard. Yeah. I was like, oh gosh, I've got to be a part of this. And they asked me to join them that night. So I was a part of the team from the go. And I got to be case manager and find places. And fast forward, I always wanted my own group. Everything down here is Elk Valley this, Elk Valley that. So Elk Valley Paranormal, EVP, all my audio, perfect. It just kind of fit together, right?
Yeah, that's great.
So, yeah, it just went together. And I brought over one of the guys that I'd actually trained on the first team. The first team, we still talk and all that. Ghost Hunters of Southern Tennessee, we actually lost one of the co-founders recently, and prayers going out to his family, Wayne Baker. He was actually the sensitive that let me know I was sensitive. I didn't know that. I had no clue why I was having all these sensations at different places, and I was having panic attacks growing up and taking on people's energy, and I didn't know that. So he started me learning what was going on. And James Jones, the other founder, I had a meeting with him scheduled for this past weekend. We had to reschedule, so I'll get in touch with him. He's got a story to tell me. But so anyway, they trained me and gave me the basics, everything I needed to go forward. And then I created Elk Valley Paranormal and brought in people that, had different talents. And like Sean, the co-founder, is my debunker. He's the eternal skeptic. And yeah, you all kind of gotta be, but he's a real skeptic. And I will say he has seen enough now that he's not quite as skeptical as he was. But he can still really debunk things. He's great at saying, no, this is the fear cage. You got microwave, you got, the range, he's very good at that. And then we've got my mountain man, dirty hippie, that we affectionately call him, and he calls himself Walt Marler. He's a mountain guy and knows so much about Native history and living on the land and being out and elemental spirits and just on and on and on. And Chrissy is a witch, so we've got that side of it too. And she actually just got her doctorate in forensic science.
Oh, wow.
So she can come at it from that point too. So she's a real interesting chick to have around. And then we call on the guy that does the covers and the illustrations in my book a lot. And that's Mark Elliott Foltz. He was in Chattanooga, lives in Florida now, so it's a little bit of a commute, but it's a great vacation at least once a year to go see him. And he has done lots of remotes for us, and of course, all my artwork. And he's just a super guy. We've actually gotten him on investigations, he's gotten us on investigations, and we've just worked together. So, um, now fast forward a little bit, and I told you about the miracle baby. We just lost him,
Oh
actually.
no.
Oh,
So it was last year. Um, he was only 19 and a half. And I mean, she was never supposed to have any. And I guess God just said, okay, you can have this one. He's a great one, but I'm going to take him back. I don't know. I don't know, but we're still devastated. But he's checking in.
I'm
He's
so
he's already
sorry.
checking in. It's yeah, I'm okay right now. I'm not crying right now. But yeah, it's been a tough. We lost him April the 6th last year. He just this past Monday would have been his 21st birthday.
Oh.
Mm.
And we had to celebrate it at the cemetery. So, you know, that kind of thing.
I'm so sorry.
But yeah, my baby. So, next question.
Well, it did mention in your bio that I read in a couple of different spots that you have actually worked with law enforcement, which I'm incredibly intrigued by. In what capacity were you working with them? You know, how were you received? I know sometimes it can be, you kind of on one side or the other as far as being overly skeptical or, maybe believing a little bit but not really wanting to show it. What do I know? I don't hang out with a lot of law enforcement folk anyway. But this is what I'm gathering from the extensive Law and Order series that I've watched. So if you could
Well,
shed some insight.
yeah, the first one was actually very skeptical. I will tell you, I've got a really good friend. We graduated together, went through several grades of school together. And he's on the sheriff's department here. And I've actually come on, go on an investigation. Let's go. Come on. And he's gone with us and verified, and I won't name him because he needs to remain anonymous as does the other one. But he's a terrific person. We had gotten some evidence in town, and it was kind of crazy how it came together. Mark had given us some information. I had gotten some EVPs it was at the old hospital. I can tell you that. But we knew there was a child there, and we thought we were talking to her, but it was another child that we didn't know was there until Mark said, well, you've got this one and you've got this one. And there's also a little boy. But the middle girl, he said, the part of her that's there is just part of her personality. She's not dead yet. I was like, what? What? How does that happen? So it was just so traumatic that part of that imprinted on that place. But
Oh, wow.
the part that was there was awful. Sean took a teddy bear one night for the little girl. And you can hear him on the EVP saying, I brought this just for you. It's so soft, it's cuddly, it's just for you. Nobody else's, it's just for you. And the little girl says, I don't want it.
Oh.
Well.
And then the next EVP, he's still talking because he couldn't hear that. We didn't hear that live.
Mm-hmm.
And the next one says, take it back. I don't want it. Jail. And I was like,
Whoa.
jail? What? And I was clueless. And so after I got that information, I was telling him, I said, Sean, she wasn't happy with you. And he said, oh, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. Well, we were still thinking it was that first little girl. No, not so much. So anyway, I talked to my mom after I got the information. I said, Mom, this is what I got. Why would she say jail? And she said, oh my Lord. And just stopped. And I said, what? And she said, that poor little girl was molested. And I said, wait, what? And she said, the the sheriff's department and the police, anyone that used to have to go pick up children would bring a teddy bear with them.
Oh.
No idea. No idea. So Mark had the name of this girl. Mark told me the name of her when he came up and did the investigation. Later on, and we're talking about 5 years or so, I'm talking to my buddy on the force and telling him this story, and he goes, I remember that. And I said, wait, what? You remember what? He said, I remember when they picked her up. And I said, who? And he said, her name that Mark had given us. And it was just like, oh, oh God. And he said, yeah, he said it was awful. It was awful.
Oh God.
So that part of that little girl was still at the hospital.
I was going to say this. So that's the one that's still alive.
Yes. And
but
hopefully
left the impression there.
Yeah. And hopefully that impression will dissipate.
There.
You think it'll stay?
I don't know. I hope so. Not stay there. I mean, like stay away from her, and not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not,
yeah. I hope.
Like,
yeah. I hope she's all past that. I hope she's doing great. But the other one was even weirder than that to me, because this one happened early on when I had this. We had done an investigation. Mark had done a remote. We had gone out to this place, and there was native stuff going on. There was just a lot. It had started when this girl had come in and gone to a ghost walk and was overly excited about the ghost walk. So she would walk away from the group or whatever and try to talk to the spirits. Okay. She wasn't protected. She was just interested in ghost hunting and anything about it, any kind of cemetery walks, anything like that. But she was so open that things would get, well, hitchhike, jump her and hitchhike. So she would have these things with her. And something dropped off of her at this girl's house. That's why we went. And that left, thankfully. But when she found out that we had been there and any of the EVPs that I had, I got a video from her in email, and I had never met her ever. It was just, we went to this friend's house that had the problem. This girl lived in another state, and she said, I need you to tell me who this is. I'm being stalked.
Oh.
Okay. It was a video of her living room, and there was no sound. And I wrote her back. I said, there's no audio. I don't hear anything. And there's obviously nothing paranormal in this. I don't see anything. I'm so sorry. Immediately, I got 5 recordings. Well, within say an hour. One from her bathroom, one living room, one kitchen, one of somewhere else in the house, one out in her car that she left running for a few minutes. Just, she just put it in there, shut the door, and left. And so I pulled out the EVPs I could, and they were the weirdest EVPs ever. And they were talking to her. They were telling her they knew she was telling people about them, and there was nothing she could do about it.
Oh, wow.
And they were not leaving her. They weren't leaving her. And
Excuse me. What?
listen, it gets worse.
Unacceptable.
It gets worse. Unfortunately, she was able to see these things, and they were everywhere. She would go to a movie, and one of these guys would stand up and walk past her and just stare at her. They'd be in a hood, like a hoodie, or, just weird. She would see one on the roof of the house next door looking in at her. I mean, just anywhere she was. What, Kara?
So is it the same? Hold it. Is it the same couple of guys that are just like, oh, I'm going to take a ride in the car and
It's not
follow
just
you to the
two.
movies?
It's not just two.
Or are they just like everywhere?
Everywhere.
And is
they're
it just like a lot of them? Like a lot of them just everywhere.
And they're all looking similar, but she is not alone ever. She will be walking somewhere and feel somebody behind her and turn around, and one of them is there. She'll come around the corner, one of them is there. They're always looking at her. They're always talking to her, telling her she can't get away from them. She'll never get away from them. They're going to take her with them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Are they all
one
like
of them
masculine
even laughed.
or
with
What's
where?
Are they all like masculine, or are they
all of them?
All of them. Masculine.
All of them were, yes. And so I emailed these things back to her, and she messaged me really quick, and she said, my brother wants to talk to you. He's a policeman, and he hasn't been believing me, but he wants to talk to you. And when you hear a policeman wants to talk to you, I mean, I kind of went,
not a good reaction.
No, I wasn't too excited about that. I kind of went, okay, because I'm thinking, what did I don't think I did anything wrong.
Call my lawyer first.
Yeah. Did I do something wrong? I didn't know. Was it illegal? What happened? What did I just do? So he calls me and he said, you are the first person that has legitimized her complaints. And I said, I'm not following. He said, she has put in so many stalking complaints, so many, just different harassment. They're following her. She can't get away from them. They're threatening her. They're threatening her life. They're threatening her family. They're threatening, everything they're saying. And it was threatening. All of it was threatening. We will get you. And they would call her name. We're going to get you. You can't get away. All this. And he said, how did you do that? And I said, she sent me these recordings and I found those voices. He said, what is it? And I said, they're not people. And he said, okay, see, I don't believe in this stuff, but you're the only person that has actually validated her, so I need to listen to you. And I said, she is being harassed by at least 2 spirits, and I think more. And they're not going to leave her alone. And if nobody's listening to her, she actually needs to find somebody to talk to, because if nobody is listening to her, they're going to drive her crazy.
Yeah.
And he said, what do I do? He said, can you come down here? And it was too far. I said, I am so sorry. I said, you're too far away from me, but I can get you in contact with a group. That her place needs to be blessed. It needs to have, Florida water. It needs to be smudged. It needs blessed. It needs to get all of that stuff out, all the negativity out. She needs to be saged, and protected. She's not protected. She's opened herself up to all of this. And she needs to talk to somebody and get safe about it. So, long story short, they found somebody to do that. Everything was going fine for a while until my first book came out.
Oh.
Yeah. So Whispers in the Dark came out in 2018. On October the 1st is pretty much when I finished it, and finished it on Amazon and put it up, and it was going to go live as soon as, it went through the process of they had to check everything right. The friend that we had investigated got a phone call from this girl, and she said, don't listen to Cyn. Don't listen to her team. They're frauds. Don't listen to anything that they're doing. Everything they've done has gone against all of this. My brother doesn't believe them, and just tried to discredit everything. And so the girl that we investigated messaged me about, I guess she had gotten the book. So it was like 3 weeks later, she had ordered one. And she said, is paranormal email about this? Oh, I didn't tell you the part that freaked me out. So let me back up just a second. So when I sent her those 5, she sent me a couple more. And I was tired that night, and I said, I'll do this tomorrow. Well, me and my husband had a spat. It was a little spat. It was stupid. We got over it real quick, but it was a fight, a little rah, 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 rah. And the next day, I opened those emails. I hadn't opened them yet. I knew I had 2 clips she'd sent me. I didn't know what they were. So I opened them up, and the first one was to her, saying, you will never get away from us. That kind of thing. The second one was to me.
Oh.
It said, and it called me Cindy. It said, Cindy, come down here with us. We'll take care of the problem. And don't worry about your husband. We got you covered. Come down here with us. I closed the computer and just kind of sat back for a minute, like, the fuck?
And then probably threw away the computer.
I thought, I'm not drinking? What happened? What did I just, I know I've gotten enough sleep. I was going over everything. What happened? What just happened? What just happened? And I listened to it again, and I said, okay, I can't do this. So I sent her the first one and said, here's what I got. I didn't send her the one that was to me. And I said, I'm sorry. I can't, this is all I can do. This is the last one I can help you with. Because that scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
And, I'd already found them a team to help with their situation. So I knew they were covered. And I felt like it was okay for me to say, that's all I can do. And I called Mark and I said, something happened, and tell me I'm okay. Just tell me that, I don't have anything in my house now. I don't, what? Let me know what's going on. And he goes, what happened? And I told him, and he said, okay, calm down. Which I was like, blah, 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 like that, right? And he goes, first of all, it's just like a parlor trick. And I said, what? And he said, spirits, low level like that, have this thing that they can do, that they can read your aura for about 48 hours-ish. And whatever has happened, if you haven't prepared yourself for your session, if you haven't meditated, if you hadn't white lighted yourself, and I never thought about doing that for going over audio, ever. I never thought about that. He said, you need to at least throw some salt in your shower and white light yourself before you ever do an audio session or any kind of investigation. We always did an opening and closing prayer, and
For just like listening to audio.
yes,
That's wild.
because they came through and read my aura through an email
Ugh.
that I got the night
Don't
before.
like that. No,
I mean,
I don't like that.
I do
we
not
had,
care.
we had,
I do not care for
it was,
that.
it was so, I mean, we had the argument the night before.
Mm-hmm.
And then that next night is when I opened it and they came through and they knew about the argument.
No, thank you.
I'm telling you, he had to calm me way down. He had to calm me way down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very importantly,
the house and then running would have calmed
Who
me
are
down.
these
It
men?
would have been
Did we ever figure out who these men are?
We don't. All I knew was that I talked to Mark about this because he can do remotes, and he said, Cyn, you did tell her you couldn't work anymore with her. I said, yeah. After that last one I sent, I said, I'm done. I'm sorry, I can't help you more. He said, do not contact her. Do not answer anything from her ever again. And he said, she has opened herself up so much that things are just dropping off her like fleas. And when she called her friend, the friend called me that 3 weeks later and said, does October 1st mean anything to you? That's when I finished the book and it was about to go live. And she said, my friend called me and told me not to believe anything you said, that my brother didn't believe you. She discredited everything. And she said, but the thing is, I knew that her brother believed you, and I knew that you guys had helped me and helped her. So she said, so what was that? And so here was another Mark conversation. I said, Mark, what the heck is going on? He goes, she has gotten so far into, that she wouldn't leave it alone, basically. That they have become part of her personality now. She's allowed them in.
Oh, no.
So it's more like, it's not really multiple personalities. It's not that. It's just that these things are around her so much, they're just part of her. She takes them everywhere, and they tell her what to say and what not to say. So they told her to call her friend to discredit us because the book just came out and paranormal email was in it.
That's fun.
All three of you guys are just looking at me like,
oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. Speechless.
I know. Well, I figured that's where you were going with it, that the book came.
We lost you there for a second, I think.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Okay.
Right. I think so.
Right. And so, yeah, no, I'm done with that one.
Okay, so the EVPs that you talk about in your books, are they all things that you have personally investigated, or are these things people bring to you and then you investigate them, or are these just like a collection that you've just gotten over the years?
The third book you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that one is the investigations that I have done either with the team or with Mark, or even, co-team, going out and co-investigating. But those are all investigations I have done, and the EVPs I have gotten myself.
Do you have any that you mentioned some were funny? Do you have a funny one that you could tell us about?
I I do. I've got one that's kind of, bless her. I mean, it's one of these things that you go, bless her heart, bless her heart. So this was in, but then I've got a funny one
Oh, good.
too. I'll tell you that one next. But the bless your heart one was in a cemetery, and um, we did a spirit box session, and the voice I got, I picture her as 30 to 50 somewhere, and I think I don't really know how old she was when she died, but I t- I picture her, the way her voice sounded. I picture her like a Marilyn Monroe want to be. She really wanted to be glamorous. She really wanted to be like Marilyn Monroe, that kind of thing. But what she says is, I'm so tired of this ditch.
Oh God, I love that.
I know.
Oh my God.
Can we make that code for any place that we don't
Yeah.
want to be?
Yes.
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 We're
We
using
have.
that from now
Right
on.
there.
That is now a
Yep.
t-shirt and we're stealing it
Oh,
from
yes.
you. I'm sorry.
But
Yep.
you will get a t-shirt.
It's
We will
done.
send you a t-shirt with that on it.
I'm so tired of this ditch.
Oh, that's
No.
genius.
Now, the funny one was at a residence, and I couldn't see him. I don't see spirits often, but this one I could feel. I knew something was around me. I just didn't know what. I thought it was a man. And I said, okay, I know somebody's standing next to me. I'm going into the next room, going to take some pictures. Come with me. And I did that for about 3 rooms. We were doing our walkthrough, taking pictures. Some of the team had gone outside to go around the property, taking pictures, things like that. So when I went over the evidence after the fact, after this investigation, about the 3rd time I said, follow me, this curmudgeonly little old man goes, I got better things to do than to follow you around all night.
I already love him.
Right?
I already love him.
I did too.
I mean,
That's
I
the
don't,
backside of
but...
Yeah, that's the backside of the shirt. So tired of this ditch. I got better things to do than follow you around all night. Actually, I think that's going to be the back of our business cards.
It's literally always true. I got
So
better
true.
things to do than follow you around all night.
Oh, those are good. I like those a lot.
Really good.
You can hear all of those on the website, elkvalleyparanormal.com.
I'm really excited to continue reading the books. I tell you what, that intro of what was to be your first book got me in tears immediately. I lost my grandfather probably four months before you lost your father, and he was, like my dad essentially. But that hit me, and then the I love you story, and I was just done. I was just done. And then you go into having an experience with him. Did you not? With your dad? Have you had experiences with your dad?
I really I've not seen him. I've only dreamt about him a couple of times, but when Wyatt died, this 4th book I started in 2020. So I brought my first one out in 2018. I brought the next 2 out in 2019.
Yeah, I saw that. It looked like a busy year.
Yeah. And then I had 2020 planned for It's Not Goodbye, Signs from Beyond. And that book, God just kind of put that in my lap. It was just because I was doing scary stories and, spooky places. And for some reason, I just got this put in my lap of signs from our loved ones, deathbed conversations, when they're talking to somebody that you can't see.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
Near-death experiences, cats and dogs coming back to visit us, pennies, cardinals, all the signs. So that's what this book was. And 2020 is when I started it. I wanted to bring it out in Easter. Didn't happen. Lost my motivation. I think a lot of people lost motivation in 2020.
Yeah.
And then
why is that?
right?
Easter 2020, that's about when we all just stopped.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
When.
Holidays. You get bogged down with cooking.
Exactly. Well, I didn't get it back the next year either. It was just, one of those things. I finally got it back. I went up to a friend. I get my sage from her in town, Valerie, and she's at Young Vintage and Antiques. And I walked in to get some, I don't know, some crystals and something else from her. It's probably some essential oil. And she goes, "How's the book coming?" It's not. And she said, "Why not?" And I said, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't have motivation right now. And she said, "When were you supposed to get that out?" And I said, "I had my goal as Easter of 2020. And then it was Easter of 2021. And she said, "It's a month before Easter now." And I said, "I can't do it in a month. I can't do it." She said, "I bet you could." I said, "Well, let's see how many I can get done." So she gave me the little kick I needed. And over the next 2.5 weeks, I banged out 17 stories. So,
wow.
I mean, boom, 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 boom. And I was back on. Then we lost Wyatt. I mean, it was just one of those things. So the world stopped again. And when I went to the hospital to see him, my sister was already there, my mom, of course. And his story is in that fourth book of all this. But I remember after seeing him and coming back out, I asked Mom, I said, "Have you eaten anything?" And she said, "No, I don't want anything." I said, "Mom, you got to eat something. Will you at least drink a milkshake?" And she said, "A small one. Don't get me a medium one. A small one, chocolate." So my husband had met us over there. And Wyatt, everybody had adopted Wyatt. It was just, Greg has 2 sons, so I have 2 stepsons. He kind of adopted Wyatt as his own too. And Wyatt was just everybody's baby. He would do anything for anybody. He had several yards he mowed. He had 2 jobs. He was working, and he was going to the community college here in town, and he got a 4.0 his first semester and couldn't believe it. He didn't apply himself during high school and junior high, but he couldn't believe he had done that in college. And I was like, we all knew you could do it. So he was in, getting ready for more, right? So he was in his second semester. Didn't make it all the way through. But so anyway, Greg had met us up there, and I said, "Ride with me to get Mom a shake." And he said, "Okay." And then I said, "I'll bring you back to your truck." So I had jumped in my truck. Okay. I have 2 knees that have been redone and a hip that's been redone. So I have to look down to step up into my truck, right? It's just a safety thing and a weakness thing. So I always look down at the threshold when I'm stepping up in it. Nothing was there. When I got to the hospital, I have to look down to step out of it. Nothing was there. Nothing. I have a little coin purse I keep in my purse, zipped up. And then I have another one that I kept in the console that closes up. So nothing loose. After we got out of the morgue and Greg went around to the passenger side, I opened my driver's door and there was a shiny penny face up. in the threshold. The first thing I thought was, Wyatt? No, it's too soon. That's too soon. Daddy. Daddy was a coin collector.
Oh.
So to me, Daddy was saying, I'm here. Don't worry. I'm here. And I wish I'd taken a picture before I picked it up, but it was one of those things that I went and grabbed it. And I said, and Greg heard me and he went, what? And I said, look. And I held it out and he goes, there you go.
Oh.
And I mean, it's like he knew, right?
Yeah.
So we go get my mom a milkshake. I didn't tell her about the penny. I was talking to her the next night and she said, I don't understand it. He was too young. Doug, my dad, he lived his life. Even though we didn't expect it, he'd lived his life. But Wyatt didn't have a chance to live his life. It's just not fair. And she said, I just don't understand. So we were all boo-hooing, right? And I said, Mom, she said, I just, something came up about our loved ones. And I said, Mama, I kind of think Daddy was there. And she said, why? And I told her about the penny and she goes, I found one today.
Oh.
It was a shiny penny right by the step that I come up into the house.
Oh, wow.
She said it was not there before. It was not there. I said it was Dad then. That was Dad.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Dad came to the morgue to guide Wyatt and say, it's okay. I gotcha. I'm your granddaddy, and then he let Mom know I got him. So
it just
that's
blows. Yeah, it just blows my mind that anybody's like super skeptical or super against, like the idea of ghosts, because it's just, so wonderful to think that they can just pop back in every so often. Like who doesn't want to believe,
right, that
the people that we loved so much are every once in a while just like tap tap tap.
Mm-hmm.
Still checking in. You're doing okay.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I
Incredible.
prayed for a sign from Wyatt. He was checking in with his mom every day.
Mm-hmm.
She left the light on. It was just the two of them. She left the light on in his bedroom and his door open, just so she could walk by and see his things. And then after that first week, they were living just scraping by, and Wyatt was working 2 jobs and giving money to his mom to pay bills and stuff. He was just such a good kid, just so good. And so anyway, she thought, well, I've got to turn the lights off. I'm gonna shut his door though, because I want to be able to go in there and still smell him.
Oh,
And
yes.
everything, leave everything the way it was. Not going to move it. It's going to stay that way. And that's what she did. But when she came back through, the dog and the cat were sitting at his door, just kind of staring at it. And she said, what are you two doing? And then she looked and she saw light coming through the door, the bottom of the door. And she opened it up and the light was on again. The thing is, there were 2 lights in that room. One was one of the little push pin, on, off. And the other one was a 3-way switch, but they only had the one kind of light bulb in. So you had to click to get it to turn on and then click to turn. It was just going to come on that one time.
Right.
But those one or two of those lights every day would be turned on. And that happened for almost a month and a half to 2 months. And then kind of decreased a little bit. But then if she was having to make a decision about something of his, she worried about one of his guitars, and she worried about the inscription on the monument, and just different things. And when she would finally make a decision, if she second guessed herself, she'd call back and tell him something different. And she would come back through, and Wyatt's door would be wide open and the light would be on. Like, that's the one I wanted.
Wow.
I love that.
It's been incredible. Now he checks in with my mom on to mess up her phone or her Kindle. And she'll be reading, she'll be drinking her coffee, and she'll have her Kindle propped up in front of her, not touching it until she has to turn the page. And she said the first time it happened, I came in and I said, "What's wrong?" And she said, "I don't know." She said, "This Kindle, we're gonna have to send it back. Something's wrong with it." And I said, "You just got it. It's brand new." Well, something's wrong with it. And I said, "What's wrong with it?" And she said, "I don't know. I'll be sitting here minding my own business, drinking my coffee, and not touching it. It's out in front of me, and it'll flip chapters and then come all the way back." And I said, "Really?" And she said, "Yes, we got to send it back." I said, "Mama, what does it do?" And she said, "I'll be reading and it'll flip all the way to the next chapter and it'll come all the way back." I said, "Will it come back to the exact page you were on?" "Every time." I said, "Mother, who would do that?" And she went, "Oh, is that my baby?" "That's your baby." I said, "Next time, just tell him he's there, talk to him." And she did. Next time it happened, she put it down and she said, "Hi, baby, I miss you." But that happens quite often, and he's just playing,
I
just
love that.
checking in.
I love that story so much.
I prayed and prayed and prayed for something, and if I had been thinking, with all the audio work I do, I would have been checking all of my audio. But so I got that book out. His story's in it. It's dedicated to him, of course. That's why I lost my motivation. His story had to go in that book. It had to be for him. That's Wyatt's book. So I've already got some stories, and I'm still accepting some. It's going to come out next year, the sequel to it. For anybody, any of your listeners, any of you guys, if you have stories of loved ones, signs, near death, anything like that, I'd love to put it in the sequel. Susan was telling me a story that Wyatt had helped her with about the air unit. And it was this incredible story about she called this one person from a number that she looked up on the website. She thought she was calling this one Josh. It ended up being another Josh with a totally different phone number, same business, totally different people they work for, totally different states, same name, but different numbers. And Wyatt knew the one that came to her the second time. He had met him at Advanced Auto Parts. His wife worked there because he was asking Susan, "How did you get my number?" And she said, "I looked it up on the website." And he said, "You couldn't have." And she said, "But I did." And she said, "You've been up here before?" And he said, "No, ma'am, I haven't." And she said, "Sure you have, several times." He said, "What's the address?" And she gave it to him again. So when he gets there, he gets out of his truck and she goes, "Oh, it's not you. I'm sorry." And he says, "No, ma'am, I've never been up here, but I'm here now." And he fixed it. Same name. Okay. So he's still asking, "How did you get my number?" "I looked it up on the website." "No, ma'am, you didn't. That's my personal phone number. That is my personal cell number. It's not on the website." And she said, "Well, then I guess maybe I misdialed a number or something." He said, "But I work in I work in Alabama. You're in Tennessee." And totally, she said, "I don't know." And he said, "Something's weird." And he said, "Do you know my wife?" And no, I don't know your wife. I don't know how I got your number. I don't know your wife. And he said, well, she works at Advanced Auto. And she goes, oh my goodness. I wonder if she's the one Wyatt always called my lady. And he
Oh,
said, yep. Yep, because
Oh
she's
wow.
the only one that worked down there. Wyatt would go in to get a part and come out to the Jeep and go, "Oh, Mama, my woman wasn't in there, my lady wasn't in there. I didn't get to talk to her today." Because he would just sit and they would just talk about anything and everything, and he loved her. Her husband was in there one day when Wyatt went in by himself, and they talked about guitars and trucks and motors and God knows what all. But he had met Wyatt. And somehow when he finally said, wait a minute, your son's name is Wyatt. He drove an El Camino, didn't he? And she said, yeah. He said, okay, there's some divine intervention going on here. So somehow the wires got switched. Wyatt got the man up to his mama that needed to be there. And what was so funny is Susan goes, can I keep your number? And he goes, well, yeah, you've already got it. He goes, I'm just 10 minutes away. So
Oh, that's amazing.
but she was telling me the story. And that was on the 23rd of February that she told me the story. And I finally got the nerve up to transcribe it from my phone in April. And I got an EVP.
No.
Would you like to hear it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now I have been told, and Carrie, you know Mike.
yes.
You know how direct he is, right? He
Yes.
told me when I played that, he said, Cyn, he said, I'm gonna be totally honest. People are gonna say it's fake. And I said, I don't care. Because it was just me and Susan. The dog and the cat were asleep. The television was on, but the sound was off. And that it was just us. So let me put my glasses on real quick and find this for you. Okay, you're going to hear her voice telling the story.
He drove an El Camino.
Can you hear it?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yeah. And then he
Did
said,
you hear that?
then he said,
No.
Would you like to hear it again?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to take it back just a tad bit more. All right. Here we go.
he said, your son's name was Wyatt, and he drove an El Camino. And I said, yeah. And then he
Did
said,
you hear that?
then he said,
What? How is that? That is the clearest EVP
That's
I've
so
ever
clear.
heard in my life. That
Here's
is
the thing.
amazing.
That's unbelievable.
Here's the thing. I was training him to be my videographer. And I had taken him on a couple of investigations, and he had heard, I know this is why, he had heard me and Sean say out into the dark, okay, talk into that red light, get as close to that red dot as you can get, and speak as loud as you can to us. Let us know you're here, to any spirit, right? At any investigation. Get close to that light. Let us hear you. Just, tell us what you want us to know.
Oh.
He got as close as he could to my phone
Yeah.
and
Did you
said
hear
that.